Hey everyone, this is Coloring Chemist. My name is Connie, and welcome back to my channel. This is a project that I started on, and I think I'm going to abandon it. And I'm going to explain why. So maybe for those of you that didn't see this previously, the video where I reviewed the new Ohuhu Halawa colored pencils, I showed, well, a smaller version of this. And I said that this was my new project. Now, just some background. This is based on a chart that the very, very lovely Helen Cryer had shown on her YouTube channel, I think probably about a year ago, maybe more. And she had just done this with artist grade pencils. Helen is a beautiful, wonderful artist. If you haven't seen her channel, definitely go and check it out. I think it's worth seeing. And what she had done was more a version that kind of just looked like this. She had a grid. It didn't have little grid marks on it. It was just sort of an open space. And she, rather than just saying a pencil is oil-based or wax-based, which I realize is a kind of shorthand that gets thrown around a lot. And through my own research and, watching Harry, the Art Gear Guide, wonderful, amazing channel on YouTube, that's not... We use it as shorthand to say that oil-based pencils are hard and translucent and wax-based pencils are softer and more opaque. That's not exactly true. Well, it's not true at all. But I was trying to figure out a way to better classify pencils that made more sense to me as a chemistry teacher and knowing what I know about oils and waxes and what have you. And I did put out a video on my channel previously. I can try and remember to link it below, where I talked about this sort of myth of oil-based and wax-based. Now, I understand sometimes having that shorthand can be helpful, right? So if somebody says to you, this is an oil-based pencil, and if everyone has sort of the same definition of oil-based, then you can, get an idea in your head of what that colored pencil, feels like. But I wanted something a little more. So Helen had done this with some artist grade pencils. And basically she had this sort of grid set up where she's got hard on the bottom sort of left here, all the way up to soft, top left, and then dry, bottom left, and then creamy, bottom right. And what she did was, rather than looking at the pencils with just one characteristic, she took those two characteristics and sort of split them. So, we often think creamy versus dry. A dry pencil is hard and a creamy pencil is soft. But that's not always true. Caran d'Ache luminance pencils, for example, and I'll sort of go to my expanded version here. Caran d'Ache luminance pencils, for example, are quite dry feeling, but they're fairly soft pencils. So that was sort of the start of all this for me. And I actually made these are little squares of paper with blue sticky tack in the back so I can move them around. And the reason I put a 10 space grid going across and going up was, well, I'm a math science person, right? I like numbers. And so it made me happy, rather than saying, Faber-Castell polychromos is about here on the grid, I can say it fell in, from on a scale from 1 to 10, from dry to, and creamy maybe is the wrong word here. I was fighting with that too. Smooth, buttery. Anyway, it fell, as a 9, and that's, again, this is arbitrary. This is me placing these pencils where I felt they should go. These are not numbers. And the same thing with the hard and soft scale. This is not the HB scale. This is not the ASTM hardness scale. Because I try, and I know a wonderful viewer of mine made the suggestion that I could use that scale. But I couldn't. I tried to find, to say, where does the Derwent Pro Color fall on that scale? And I could find a few of them, but for the vast majority of colored pencils, I couldn't find that information. So this was just, sort of my own scale, 1 to 10, hard to soft. And so, polychromos was a 9 out of 10 on the dry to smooth, glidey scale, and a 5 out of 10 on the hard to soft scale. That's why I put this grid on. And then at the very corners here, just in case, people were maybe, because this is arbitrary and it's subjective, right? It's my feeling. The thing that I could think of that would exemplify, like, really hard and really dry were chalk pastel pencils. Like, and at least this is probably a bad example, but because they're artist grade, but like the Pitt pastel pencils. They're not hard as in like a Derwent artist pencil would be hard, but they're hard-ish, and they're very, very dry. When I say dry versus smooth or creamy or buttery or glidey, this is what I mean. The ultimate sort of soft and dry would be something like Toison d'Or, or maybe Sennelier extra soft pastels, or like a pan pastel, right? It's very dry, but very soft. Extra soft oil pastels, so maybe something like again, the Sennelier. Basically, imagine you're coloring with lipstick. That's the ultimate in soft and creamy and glidey. The ultimate in hard and glidey. I was trying to think of an art supply, and the only thing I could come up with is gel pens. Because gel pens, good quality gel pens, are very creamy. They're glidey, but they're hard, right? It's not like if you put more pressure down on a gel pen, it's really going to do much of anything. So, and then I just basically had pencils in hand. I took reds from, there's a few greens in here because there was a few sets I had that I didn't have reds. But most sets that I had a red pencil. And I just had scrap paper, and I would color and switch and color and switch and color. And this is what I had so far. Now, you can pause this video if you want. Take a picture of this. If anyone wants to continue work on this, by all means, go for it. These were some brands over here that I hadn't yet, placed on the grid. But here's why I think I'm going to abandon this. I feel like when Helen first did this, she did just some artist grade pencils. I think she had maybe 5 or 6, if I remember correctly, that she put on this grid. And I think she had Caran d'Ache Luminance, I think Faber-Castell, I think she had Derwent drawing pencils, Derwent Lightfast, Prismacolor Premier. Honestly, I can't remember what else she had on there. But there was 5 or 6, but they were all, sort of the artist grade pencils. I know there's some controversy over whether Prismacolor Premier is artist grade, but I mean, I'm not an artist. Who am I to judge any of this, really? Maybe that's partly behind why I feel like I should abandon this too, but I tried to do this, but expand it. And so not only look at artist grade pencils, but put budget grade pencils on here as well. But basically put them all on the same grid. And my reason for that was because I felt like it would be handy to be able to compare just in terms of hardness and softness, and dry versus, again, creamy maybe is the wrong word, because I have Faber-Castell over here at a 9 out of 10, and I don't know that anybody would argue that Faber-Castell was creamy, but glidey, I think, is what I'm getting at over here. Faber-Castell are I know a lot of people like the term buttery. Prismacolor Premier is a 10 out of 10. They're creamy, but they're still glidey, right? Whereas Faber-Castell are more buttery, but glidey, but glidey isn't even really a word. Has the characteristic of glide? I don't know. I don't know what word should have gone there. But anyway, looking at these two aspects of a pencil separately, I thought was a handy thing. But the more I did this, I feel like by continuing this, I'm putting myself in the crosshairs of professional artists. And I don't like being in the crosshairs of anybody. Because maybe I shouldn't have budget pencils on here with artist grade pencils. Maybe that's wrong. Because nowhere on here do I take into account the colorant that's in the pencil, the level of colorant that's in the pencil. I have brute thinner squares up here as being fairly soft and fairly glidey, and they're, somewhat near Holbein. And I would hate for someone to look at this chart and sort of in their head think that somehow I was equating brute thinner square pencils and Holbein pencils as being dupes, or the brute thinner square is like a dupe for the Holbein, or that isn't what this is about. So I feel like continuing with this might just turn into an exercise in frustration, and I feel like I would maybe be inviting a lot of criticism, which I don't like, but is also maybe somewhat valid, because I think professional artists who work with these professional grade pencils, I think they have somewhat of a point. Because again, when you're talking about a pencil, these would all be averages, right? Let's think about Prismacolor Premier pencils. The vast majority of them are very glidey and very soft. But there are, a few pencils within the set, the 150 set. What's the one that's really electric blue? Is that what it's called? That's a strange pencil, and it doesn't feel anything like the rest of the Prismacolor Premier pencils. So when I was doing this, and obviously I'm just testing one color, right? Different pencils in a set feel differently. If I swatch out all 120 of my Polychromos pencils, there is some consistency, and I would say actually Polychromos has quite a lot of consistency amongst the pencils, even considering different pigments will give the pencil a different feel, all of that kind of stuff. But even so, the yellows, I think the yellows in almost any set feel creamier, more buttery, maybe a bit softer than the rest of the pencils in the set. So these were all just an average, right? That's not to say every single Prismacolor Premier pencil is smoother and creamier than every single Derwent Lightfast pencil, right? There might be, hopefully I'm explaining myself there correctly or well enough. It was an average. But again, I just started to feel like maybe this was the wrong way to go. Maybe putting the budget pencils on here with the artist grade pencils was going to create more confusion. I like, again, I think it's the math science in me. I like assigning numbers to things. I like organizing. I like classifying. It's just what I like to do. But I don't know that this is necessarily helpful to others. I don't know. So as it stands right now, I think I probably will just abandon this. So if some of you had seen that earlier video and were sort of hoping and waiting for me to do more work on this, I did do a little bit more after that video. But I don't know that I'll be doing anymore. So again, I'll take my hands out of the way. If anyone wants to stop this and take a screenshot and just work on it yourselves, see if you agree with where I put things. Again, remember, this has nothing to do with whether a pencil is artist grade or budget or somewhere in between. It has nothing to do with the pigmentation levels in the pencil or what kinds of pigments they use, the quality of the pigments, whether it's pigment or dye. Nothing. None of that is on here. This was just simply ranking pencils in terms of hardness to softness, and as a separate characteristic, dryness to glidiness. That's all I was doing here. All right. So I guess I will probably put all my red pencils back in their cases. I scoured the house. What do I have? Everything in here. I have, this is like a, well, it's an Ergosoft pencil. I even pulled out some of the metallic pencils, which again, it's probably not even a comparison. I pulled out some of these. I have these Magic Tri-color pencils. I think there's even a Laurentian pencil in here for those of you who are. Nope, that's a. I even pulled out, like, I had Albrecht Dürers in here because you can use them dry. I think I even had an Inktense pencil in here. Is that a Laurentian pencil? Oh, it is. For those of you Canadians out there, Laurentian Poppy Red number 3. Yeah, I mean, but I just don't think this is going to turn out the way I envisioned it. And again, I don't want to be in the crosshairs of professional artists who are saying, you know, you're doing a disservice and this is really not something that's going to be helpful to anyone. I just didn't want to deal with that. So, short video for me, I know, but I just wanted to put this out there just to explain why you probably won't be seeing this going forward. Yeah, that's about it. I hope everyone is safe. I hope everyone is well, and I hope everyone is enjoying their coloring. Till next time, folks, take care. Bye-bye.